But we got lots of speakers, you know, we got the tax collector, and we got the voter registrar. Oh wait, that's the same guy. So our friend Bruce Elfant is here. He has served as the county tax assessor-collector and the voter registrar, yay, since 2013. And I didn't know this, but you previously served 20 years as a county constable. And we'll hear more about that in a second. So Bruce is a native Houstonian. In fact, he graduated from the same high school in Houston as Barbie and I and Linda McCullough and maybe some others. So are there any other Westbury rebels here? I think that's pretty much covered.
We're the Huskies now.
We're the Huskies now, yeah. We won't get into all the, you know, white supremacist memes and stuff that we had to deal with back then. But Bruce also came to Austin as quick as he could in 1976, where he earned a degree in business communications from UT Austin. And Bruce has, I think your whole life, Bruce has been passionate about civic engagement in the political process. And he works tirelessly on voter outreach, training volunteer deputy registrars, VDRs, advocating for online voter registration, maybe someday that'll happen, speaking out for voting rights and reminding residents of Travis County that it is our patriotic duty to vote. And thanks in large part to Bruce's efforts, Travis County has the highest voter registration rate among all of Texas urban counties, and I think that's awesome. And when Bruce was Travis County Constable, he helped establish a veterans court, which places veterans into recovery programs instead of into jail. And that sounds cool to me. I didn't know about that. And also an all-volunteer parking monitor force that reports vehicle owners who illegally park in spaces that are reserved for persons with disabilities. That's pretty cool, too. Bruce has participated in numerous committees, a lot of them focusing on preventing family violence and protecting victims of abuse. And he's won so many awards for civic and community service that we don't have time to go into them all here, and he probably wouldn't want us to dwell on that anyway. He always just says, well, it's not about me, you know. So, and Bruce is going to be retiring from this service at the end of his current term, which is how many days?
66.
December 31st, 66 days, but who's counting? And we'll be honoring that service and recognizing him a little bit more with a little cake later, so don't leave, there's cake. But for now, we want to hear what he has to say about voting rights as we head into the final stretch of the election. So let's welcome our good friend, Bruce Elfant.
Thank you so much. It's always fun to come out here. I mean, I've been coming out here so long, I remember when North Shore Democrats wasn't really plural. Y'all have come a long way, and I very much appreciate all the work that y'all have done out here to expand the Democratic reach out here. First, a couple of housekeeping things. For those of you who care, the Longhorns are up 21-7. And people care a little bit less about this, but we're not sending out tax bills until after the election because of the propositions that are on the ballot, and we don't want to risk sending out tax bills twice. It costs us $250,000 to send out tax bills, and that's one of the reasons that we're encouraging people to sign up for e-bill, so we can save trees and tax dollars. But we're only going to send them out once. They'll be coming out in mid to late November. Be sure to pay them before the end of the year so you can write your check to me. Otherwise, you'll be writing your check to Celia. And yeah. So, voting rights. It's a pretty dark time for voting rights. You know, just in recent weeks, the Attorney General did a raid on a bunch of people for so-called illegal voting for non-citizens. And one of the people's homes that he busted into was a candidate for state representative. So you kind of have to think about what that's about. Governor Abbott put out a press release bragging about how he purged 1 million voters from the voter rolls. And what that was about was routine list maintenance. When people pass away, when people move, People leave the county or state, people come off the rolls. But he scared the hell out of people. And I can't tell you the number of calls and emails we received for people asking, am I still on the rolls? You know, did Governor Abbott purge me? I got calls from district judges. And the reason they called is because their information's been redacted. They can't look themselves up. And I had a half a dozen district judges expressing concern that Governor Abbott might have removed them from the rolls. So this is the kind of environment we're in. You know, in Texas, we're not allowed to have nice things. As you mentioned, that I've been an advocate for online voter registration as long as I've been in office. 43 states and Guam allow their citizens to register to vote online, but not Texas. Most states have either automatic registration or same-day registration, but not Texas. Most states allow their citizens to vote by mail if they choose, with no restrictions, but not Texas. You know, these are problems, and it contributes to suppressing the rolls. We're having to deal with a lot of lawsuits, a lot of suits against jurisdictions for removing polling places, especially in minority areas and student campuses, college campuses. And fortunately, most of those lawsuits have been successful, and we've been able to restore some of those. But this is the environment that we're in, that we have to keep, it's like whack-a-mole. Every time we think we've done something good, the forces of darkness, you know, descend on us again. And then, you know, to overlay this, you have gerrymandering. You have districts where people feel like, what's the point? You know, my vote's not going to have any influence. And my response to that is, if we have a high enough turnout, our votes can have influence. And we've seen in the past 2018 where we had a lot of influence, and we picked up a dozen legislative seats. We picked up a bunch of appellate court positions. And hundreds, literally, of local Democratic offices. But the turnout has to be high enough to be able to do that, and I'm going to talk about turnout in a minute. So for all this gloom and doom about voter suppression, President Obama had a really interesting quote. He said, you know, voter suppression is a bad thing, and we need to fight it at every turn. But voter suppression is dwarfed by the number of people who voluntarily choose not to vote. Mm-hmm. And so we've got to deal with the voter suppression part, but we've also got to deal with this. The way I talk about it is we have to figure out how to connect the dots to convince people that registering and voting matters in a democratic society. Otherwise, you know, President Roosevelt said the only way we can lose our right to vote would be by not voting. Mm-hmm. And you know, the United States is 100th in the world in voter turnout. Some of that's voter suppression, but most of it is people tuning out for all kinds of reasons. And we got to figure out how to give them a reason to tune back in and show them that their vote can matter, especially if enough people turn out. So that's my part on voter rights and voter suppression. The only way this is really going to change is either that we can convince enough Republican constituents of these Republican leaders to do better, or we get rid of them and we vote them out. And in Texas, that's proved to be difficult, but it's going to happen. I think last time I was here, I showed y'all a chart showing the trend line from the 1990s in the 2000s, where we were losing statewide races by 20 points. In the 2010s, we were losing races by, you know, maybe 10 points. And more recently, in 2020, 2022, we're losing races, statewide races in the single digits. And so the trend line is in the right direction, but it's going to require a high turnout to make that happen. And somebody's going to break through soon. And the person who breaks through is not going to be somebody that we expected to break through. It's going to be a surprise. But, you know, let's thank all the people who put themselves up there to run for these offices, because we want some surprises, and it will happen. So I wanted to talk about briefly voter registration. Then I want to talk about what's going on in early voting, how it impacts us, and then if there's time, the best part of this is taking questions, because right now you're hearing me tell you what I want to tell you, but it may not be what you wanted to hear. And so you can ask questions when we're done. So this voter registration cycle was very successful. We've had 5,000 volunteer deputy registrars in Travis County. If you're a VDR, raise your hand. Yay! Thank you. Thank you so much. Our efforts combined registered 85,000 voters and helped tens of thousands of more voters update their addresses so that they can get the right ballot. And for all that work, this cycle, our registration rate is 96.3%, which is the highest of any urban county in Texas. Now, I have to say that in 2020, we were at 97%, and I was truth tested by the American Statesman because they said, well, that's impossible. And they found that I was true, which was a nice thing. So 96.3, it's kind of like, well, it's a little bit down. But my wife says, look, it's just a rounding error. It's not a big deal. You know, we partnered with so many public and private partnerships, private and sector entities to facilitate the voter registration. The schools, ACC, AISD have been big supporters of what we're doing. The League of Women Voters, Alamo Draft House, I won't go into all the, but I'm really proud of all the partners that we have to help us. And on the deadline day, we were at every Thundercloud sub. We were at all the tax office locations, and we registered about 8,000 people that day on October 7th. And so thanks to y'all. That's how we got up to 96.3%. So, and I have a little bit of a PowerPoint. I was supposed to show the top 10 counties, and I'll pass these around. These are the top 10 counties for the voter registration rates, and this is my my PowerPoint. And so I'll pass that around. The important thing is that Travis County is way above everybody else. And since this is a political group, I made blue bars and red bars. And the deep blue bar is Travis County. The thing that brings concern to me is Dallas County, Harris County, and Bexar County. The three levers to win elections are voter registration, turnout, and margin. And so on voter registration, our most populous counties are not pulling their weight. And you know, Travis County was at 96.3. Harris County, fourth largest county in the country, is about 91%. That's a lot of voters, a lot of potential voters who aren't registered and they're not going to be part of the mix. So I showed y'all, and I'm rambling a little bit, but last time I was here, I showed y'all a chart that showed the number of votes that the counties put in what I call the statewide bucket, the margin of victory for Beto. And Harris County was 130,000, Bexar County was like 87,000, Dallas County was like, I don't know, 120,000. Travis County put 215,000 people in the statewide bucket. That was our margin of victory for Beto. Harris County is 4 times our size, and they put in about half the votes. So, you know, why do I keep harping on this? Why did Willie Sutton rob banks? Because that's where the money is. Why do I keep harping on Harris, Dallas, and Bexar? Because that's where the votes are. And we can't squeeze that much more out of Travis County. We need these larger counties to pull their weight if we're going to turn blue again. So I'll pass that out. And let me see where I am now. Oh yes, I wanted to talk about Central Texas voter registration rates. Once again, this is more good news for Travis County. We are way ahead of Wilco, Hayes, and Bastrop, although Williamson County has moved up. They were in the 80s last time, and they're a little bit over 90% now. So they are making some progress. So that's the good news. There's a little bit more good news before we get to the less good news. This is a chart, and from the distance, you're not going to be able to see it. But this is the early vote totals compared to 2008, 12, 16, and 20. And you have to understand 20 is a little bit skewed because we had 18 days of early voting rather than 12 days of early voting. But what you can see in this chart, if you look closely, is that we're tracking very close to the 2016 and 2020 numbers, which were pretty high. And so that, and maybe today we will actually overtake those 2 years. So that is the good news. In Centex, I have one for Central Texas. For us, this is less good news, but it's good to see these other counties doing well. Travis County has the lowest turnout of the Central Texas counties. Williamson County is over 30% turnout. Hayes is about 27, Bastrop is about 26, and we are at 25. And, you know, we're supposed to be the exceptional county. And so we've got some work to do in that area. So this is, now we're getting into some of the less good news. This is early vote for the top 10 counties through day 5. And the yellow in the middle is the average, and the average is about 24%. You can see that for the top 10 counties, the top producers are Denton and Collin, deep red counties. Fort Bend and Travis are next, and then you get down to Harris, Bear, Dallas, Chicago, El Paso. The really deep blue Democratic counties are not pulling their weight at this point. And when you think of Collin Allred, and when you think of other statewide races, we're not putting the votes in the statewide bucket at this point. Now, it's only through day 5. We got 7 days of early voting, and we got election day. But the trends, to me, are a little concerning. And so we have some work to do here in Travis County, because we don't want Travis County to be behind any county, right? And so we have some work to do here. And then we got to hope that these urban counties kind of pull their weight a little bit more than they're pulling at this point. So that's a little bit, 10 seconds. 10 seconds? Oh my God. Well, thank you all so much. Okay. I just wanted to conclude with, it has been such an honor to serve as your constable and tax assessor for the last 32 years. As constable, I got to work on child support issues, domestic violence issues. As you said, I led the efforts to create Travis County's Veterans Court. It's a treatment court. I'm incredibly proud of it. I was the chair for the 2010 and 2020 Census Complete Count Committee to make sure that we get our fair share of federal funds. The handicap parking enforcement, we write a lot of tickets in the constable's office to try to provide access for people who can't have it otherwise. And as tax assessor, I'm really proud that through our compassionate collections approach, we've had a 99% collection rate every year that I've been in office. And we haven't done what other counties have done, which is outsource it to private collection agencies that charge 20% on top of what people already can't afford to pay. I'm proud of the voter registration rate, and I'm proud of so much more that we've done in the tax office. To be able to be a public servant is just incredible. To wake up every morning trying to figure out how we can make government work better for people has been just a thrill. And I will miss it, but not enough to stay. With that, it's 21:10 at the half.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your years of service. We appreciate it.